I don't think we don't need no introduction. Everybody knows everybody here. We
Yeah.
introduce the Mr. Wheeler is there, so he's the new person on the block. But he's been following along with his wife and all.
Are you sharing the same book between you, like me and my husband? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm just reading it out loud and he's like, oh, okay. I'm like, okay, babe, I don't know this word. Use the dictionary.
so what
Reading.
we'll do, we'll start the libation and then we'll
And
start.
interestingly enough, I'm going to ask you, Dulcinea, are you reading the book first and then Mr. Wheeler's reading it afterwards?
Oh, I'm just reading it to him. And then I'm like, okay, babe, it's time, dictionary time.
Also, he's the dictionary.
Say that to this one, please.
He's the dictionary reader.
It's like, that's a good idea.
I only said that because I'm reading it before him and I'm writing the description of the words. So when he doesn't need to get a dictionary. So either way, they're still benefiting. So, okay.
Yes, exactly.
So Linda
From our hard work.
is on you with the libation.
Okay, so Eugene's going to pour. And it's funny, the meeting I had before this one was with my rights group. And we were talking about libations. And I said to them, you know, there was a time in my life where I didn't feel comfortable doing libations. And I said to Ra, for this particular book, because of the content, I felt it had to be done because it's so much of who we are that we need to enlist the guidance and the support of the ancestors to carry us through it.
Always, always.
Okay, all right. So I'm just going to bring up. So I'm just going to briefly just remind people that are not comfortable with libations.
Yeah, we see you. Yeah, we see you.
Okay. So libations are poured as part of rituals such as birth, childhood to adulthood, eldership, ancestorship, and special celebrations which mark the African rites of passage. We ask for the guidance and wisdom of the ancestors who went before us and those whose lives were lost in the Middle Passage as we commune weekly in this book club. And particularly, we ask that the ancestors hold and guide us in our study of Urugu. As we pour libations, please keep in mind yourself, ancestors whom to you embody the following principles and or the principles that we are about to discover in Urugu. So when Eugene pours after I make the statement, the response that everybody should say is Ashe, which means so be it. So we're going to start. So we pour libations for all who dare to define, defend, and develop our interests as people.
Ashe.
Ashe.
For our ancestral land.
Ashe.
Ashe.
For our people then and now. Ashe.
Ashe.
For our children and those yet unborn.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Kawaida, Unguzo Saba, and Ma'at. Ashe.
Ashe.
For the systems of views and values which give identity and purpose to our lives. Ashe.
Ashe.
For the new world we struggle to build and for the continuing struggle to reconstruct and reconnect our history and humanity in our own image and words according to our needs. Ashe.
Ashe.
We ask the ancestors to drink heartily and quench your thirst. Ashe.
Ashe.
Monica Sa, it is finished, it is done. Ashe.
Ashe.
Okay, thank you.
Also, whenever we do libations, if you have anybody in mind, just keep them in your mind and you know, our like personal ancestors and stuff like that. And just keep them in mind when we're doing the libations as well. So, you know, last week we talked about culture and we looked at the list of how they're defined culture, and we were looking at certain words, realizing that there's a lot of terminology that we need to be looking up and trying to understand. then we came with the agreement that we were going to all read up to 5 sections, the first 5 sections. Did everybody, were everybody able to complete those 5 sections?
Yeah. Yeah, I was there.
I think Miss Forbes is gonna come back to us. She's muted. She
Okay.
sent a text.
Mhm.
Miss Sunshine. And so, is there anything that you guys think we should review from the introduction? Let's see if we could tackle that first. If there's anything or any questions in regards to the introduction that we may have missed or you thought about when you went back. Anybody? Anything from the introduction?
Nope, not
Okay.
here.
What about Mr. Wheeler? Because I know he's a newcomer here. So if we,
Well, technically, I mean, I was in the background last time. I just wasn't
Oh.
in the
Yeah,
camera.
just remember the last time, yeah. So
Yeah.
he was listening in the
I
background.
was the one the baby was yelling at.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I mean, we could just go on to the first chapter, which saves us some time. Do anybody have any topics they want to discuss, any questions, or anything that the group can answer? When I ask these questions, I'm not the only one that's going to be answering them. Everybody else answering them.
I have one question. So Plato is the main culprit, I think, that she talks about in the chapter 1. What's the order? Who came first? Homer, Plato, Socrates, who's the other one? Aristotle.
That is interesting because the Cineo
That's
was
like the
asking similar
same
questions.
question I asked.
That's what we were discussing.
That's what we were talking about.
That's part of the discussion before. Like, we actually opened up a little early, because maybe we should have had the discussion now because. Well, now based on her, Homer. Well, hold on. Homer's first. Socrates is second. Plato is third. Aristotle is fourth. That's in the order of things. But there's a question whether Socrates was real or not, because everything we know about Socrates is through Plato, right?
Yeah.
That's why I was reading too, right? So that's what
And so they feel like Plato was criticizing the government side-handedly, right? So almost like people feel like Shakespeare made criticism, but was putting it in the play, And so, but in her, do y'all understand what like her statements about Homer versus Plato? Y'all understand that dynamic?
I understand the concept where she's saying it. He ended up changing the way Homer was the more of a on her was more poetic type writings, whereas Plato came and kind of discredited that because and kind of broke it up into pieces really.
I'm smiling, right, Eugene? I'm like, oh. I guess Eugene is back. Anybody else?
Right. Obviously, he got that right.
Linda's probably told him that already. If she's writing the dictionary, she's the one doing the work, right?
No, but in your Plato, the thing you sent about Plato, actually the book described that, but the Plato PDF that you sent, I scanned it quickly, and I did read something about Socrates. It was questionable whether or not he was a real person or not.
The academic, that's a major. I mean, a matter of fact, when I was in college, that was something that was just brought up in the 90s.
But back to,
from what we were saying too, Plato wanted to ensure that his philosophy was the one that would be accepted.
Right.
So he used all means in order to enforce that his concept was the best.
But she makes a distinction. Do y'all recognize the distinction she's making between Homer and Plato?
Plato objectified things more. Like his was the rule of order that everybody was supposed to.
Like what was her language? The language. By the way, my wife had to step away because she just got a phone call and she's she was using her phone for Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So what was the language she was mentioning? Like, remember, she's like symbolic.
I did make a note. If you can bear with, I'll look for it while you chat among yourselves.
No, I mean, we're gonna wait for you. This is the
it's 25 pages. I gotta look for it.
Yeah. I know. I know, like that's like the last chapter, kind of getting into when they talk about the literate versus the symbolic. With even she brought up like the meta netter, how it kind of dumbs down like the symbols there, where for the comedic people, the meta netter symbols would have a lot of meaning, different verse, not just spoken, but just feeling, what's written down, the reading part, exactly, the functionality of it, where it's like all the best way to do things is to read books. And that's kind of like the Plato way. It's like, okay, the smart person reads books, the thinking mind reads books, the non-thinking mind thinks about symbols or poetic or anything like that.
Right.
Now,
so is political to hierarchical.
Mm-hmm. But why is she mentioning Homer though?
Homer.
Mm-hmm.
In chapter 1.
Homer kind of he was more including things like the emotion and not so much sticking to the this monolithic kind of version of who.
See, Veronica, eat it.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, girl. Well, Homer represents the more spiritual side of things.
Yes.
So the meaning, Homer poetry had meaning to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember, so what Plato done, if you review her chart, I send those charts out so y'all can have y'all can print it out and have a separate piece. Also the glossary, I sent that as a PDF too, so y'all can print it out and have a separate piece. So when you're reading in a book, you don't have to go all the way to the beginning, to look for the chart. You can have it side by side. But if you look, part of like her argument that she's making about Plato, and if you look at the first chart, and I'm just operating from memory, the first chart has the minuses, right? So he takes away the meaning of things, the interconnectedness of things, and this is where Linda's talk about objectifying things, right? And so this is where, like Homer, like, and I was telling the Wheelers here that you know, there were Greeks, Wazungas, who were like picking up some of this stuff, trying to be spiritual and stuff like that. And they tend to just annihilate them. And this is Plato pushing his Plato is an aristocrat, really, right? He's coming from almost like who would I say? Like what's the billionaire? Warren Buffett style. He's coming with that type of worldview. And so people gravitated because it was something already familiar with them. And so they grabbed onto it. And she's making those distinctions where Homer is more of the spiritual guy. He was looking at things in his poetic, his poems had meaning behind it, and expressing certain things. And when you visualize it, it's like hieroglyphs, right? It's like you're looking, even the way we speak now, like how we even rap and all that stuff. Those things we speaking symbolically, like, yo, I'm beefing with somebody, right? Like, what's that, and So that's the distinction she's making between Homer and Plato, and I think that's important.
Mhm.
Anybody else like want to add on to that?
So where did Aristotle fit into the, after Plato is Aristotle? So
Yes.
what's the significance of Aristotle in relation to Plato then? Because he built on what Plato started. Is that the point?
Aristotle was his student. He went even further,
Mm.
you know. So the way she's painting it, like she's painting Plato being the Genesis, and really he's the Genesis because Western society was looking at him as the Genesis because they were already thinking like this. They were like, this was their framework already.
Right,
Mhm.
right.
You know,
He just came
what
in.
he did is he synthesized it and made it into like a culture value, you know.
A bit like Trump.
No, because Trump is a deviation of Plato, probably one of the worst kind, right? So Trump will be an after effect, right? It'll be more like all other presidents, right? From Obama to everybody else, like Washington, you know, like they're like, you know, there's no splitting hairs in this, you know? And so
But I would say Trump still has that control theory.
they all do. Nancy Pelosi do too. Chuck
Yeah,
Schumer, Mitch
they're in
McConnell.
control
Not one of them do. Not even
and not to be questioned.
even the progressive. No, listen. There's a facade, right? So there's a diplomat. See, Trump is nothing but the hillbilly, right? Trump is like the hillbilly version of of like Hillary Clinton, for example. Like Hillary Clinton is the more sophisticated, good vocabulary, but just as devilish, right? And Donald Trump is the one who he's so dumb he speaks his mind and everybody know what he's thinking, right? So who's worse? The one who's slick enough to poison you, or the one who say I'm gonna kick your ass? You know, so that's the difference. There really is no difference.
That's true.
The distinctions are not. They all had the same
I
foreign
meant,
policies. They're
I
all.
meant on the basis of comparison to what Plato was trying to really enforce, that control and power. They all have it. I mean,
Yeah,
even
that's white
we have it
supremacy.
as well. Yeah, and but I mean, I could see sometimes. I think that people do it and are not aware of it. You know, like because it's an ideology, so you've given into it, you've internalized it.
We're born
Now
in
that's
it.
who you are,
We're
right? And
born
that's
in
what's
it,
coming.
right? So
Yeah.
this is something that, like what I would say is all the good of me is stuff that I learned from like what our
Mhm.
people used to do in the past. All the bad of me is growing up in a Wazunga civilization society, right?
Mhm.
So these are things that at first we thought was common. So there's things that we're gonna have to question, like, is this really who we are?
Mhm.
Like we got to clean the slate and then just reincorporate values that we deem important and
Mhm.
redefine ourselves. and
It was
and
interesting to actually be looking back and seeing how the thought processes developed, right? And things that we accept just as being a given, right? It came from somewhere. And going through those steps that she's showing us, right? It really is revealing how you can just like that control, the power that they took on, right? How it affected just about every single person on earth, every single philosophy, every kind of thinking. Um, and you don't really think that you have that European mentality or anything, because even when you read a few books and you figure, yeah, I've got it, I'm Afrocentric and stuff. But when you really look through that philosophy, what the idea is, how he indoctrinated, and we look back at
Well,
ourselves, my goodness,
not
the
him.
work that's been done on us.
They're using him as the archetype, right? The
Mhm.
Western societies use, because this is
Yeah.
these are a conglomerate. This is like principalities,
Yes.
adopting this, right? And really, really, really like pushing this. And it's so bad that it has affected, it has ruined science.
Yes.
It has ruined our planet.
Hmm.
I mean, some of the things we take for granted. I mean, there's people who, it's so bad that some people think beans come from a can, right?
Hmm.
Like it's so bad
Yeah.
how they the distorted our worldview, and this is why she focuses so much on epistemology and the definition of reality and the
Hmm.
cosmos, because
Hmm.
what she's trying to do is reset us and have us view the
Yes.
world
Mhm.
as what it really is,
Really meant to be
right?
here.
And a lot of times what we're fighting for is the saving of the human mind, the actual real human beings, right? This is
Mhm.
um way beyond just, you know, us trying to civil rights and stuff like that. No, this is about some serious
I
autonomy,
mean,
Yeah.
brilliant.
you
Mhm.
know.
It's like a mind shift rally.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
I mean,
remember what we were talking about as far, and you can expound too about it, but we were just talking about like the contradiction of it all, because he was saying like you can't take the feeling out of thinking, or like you can't,
Mhm.
or they'll say one thing like, oh, that's rational, and they're like, no, that's you being emotional, but you're saying that you're being rational right now, but your emotion. So it's like they're saying, oh, take this out, or one's lesser than the other, but you can't get to the thinking thought without the emotion. Or
Right.
is it?
And then I think the other thing would be like even symbols. That was another thing I was talking about because she was like, they took away symbols, and I was like, but they gave us symbols. They just gave us a different type of symbol for what we had.
yeah,
Right. It
they
was
they
like,
Jedi mind tricked us. They're using our tools against us, right?
right. So it's like it really was more like a bait and switch. Like, hey, that's
Yeah,
no, don't
yeah.
use
But their
symbols.
symbol are meaningless and promotes their objectification. Right? It has no meaning. And
Right.
and
So
and the beauty of teaching, like you could, with a symbol, I could reveal a lot of information if you have the reference, right? So example, if you knew what it took to make the eye of Heru, right?
mhm.
And I show you that, I can actually show you a methodology that is behind all that, right? And I'll a matter of fact, I will share with you after this, just for you to see the example. Like, wow, this really means a lot more than what they're than just, oh, there's the I Heru, and it's part of their nature. This is how they lessen things. They'd be like, oh, that's just paganism,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
They'd be like, oh, that's paganism, or that's devil worship, or they talk like that among about our things that we created, but then they use it behind like the colors.
Yeah.
Like I study graphic design, and you know there's colors that they use just to make you hungry, so you eat more,
Eat more. Yeah.
right?
That's right.
There's a
Mhm.
if you wanna memorize things, write in a blue pen. Use a blue pen because your brain registers blue
Mhm.
quicker,
Mhm.
right? This is why we should be reading, because our eyes are faster, is a better processor of information than our ears.
Mhm.
That's why in a court, the witness is very important because he sees what happened, not hear. This is where they come up
Mhm.
with the hearsay.
Mhm.
But a lot of these things are just human stuff that we had long
Mhm.
time ago, and after
Mhm.
this means of control,
Yeah.
just like the Vatican took an Aristotelian approach to try to push Christianity,
Mhm.
and they were, and Aristotle took a scientific approach, but with Aristotle, like her beef with Aristotle is there's no spirit in this. Like
No.
when we observe the universe, we negate the observer.
Mhm.
So what is important? The observer, right? So one of the questions I ask people all the time is, when you view the universe or a tree outside, do you view yourself part of that tree or part of the universe, or do you view yourself separate from the universe? You see? And so what happens is, if you view yourself connected to that tree and the universe, then everything you do in the universe has some type of meaning,
Mhm.
right? Some type of significance.
Mhm.
But if you literally have the audacity to separate yourself and be like, you
Mhm.
know, looking at the universe from a separate point of view,
Mhm.
so how are you really observing that universe? Is it realistic, or you're starting to get into sci-fi now?
Mhm.
Because then your mind will say, oh, it's whatever I say, right? So
Yeah.
you're not focusing on the actual observation, right?
Nope. It's the ultimate control.
Yes.
Yeah, the ultimate control. And I think too sometimes I think they saw what we had in us. They knew that. They saw what having that spirituality, they saw where it could lead. And I think in a way they kind of knew they had to stop that. And
Yeah.
so the only way that they could come forth, because remember, in the beginning, they didn't have what we had, right? They weren't complete. So when they look and they saw people who were complete, it was like, no, 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 they're going to get the better of us. So
Well,
in a way,
yeah.
it drove them then to make sure that they had a way to control, and they could see it through the fact that we had within us the power to also take control, but we didn't, because that wasn't our purpose. That wasn't where we were led or where we were going. And but
Or
they
it wasn't
created the whole
meaningful.
idea of
It was,
purpose too, right? According to this, they created purpose, right? So so they define their purpose as control of all other everything else, including the universe. You
well,
know,
let's use her term,
cosmos,
right? She talks about the Esseni, right?
Yassini.
So in some ways, it's just the Esseni is how they are and how they express themselves. So
Mhm.
even if they didn't have a motive, right? Like, or some type of jealousy, they still gonna be like this because they were like this with each other
Yes.
before even us. So they've been like this all the time, and she will make it. So when y'all read further, she will make that point,
Mhm.
right? And this is where she mentioned Michael Bradley,
Mhm.
where he talks about white man inheritance, the prehistoric times.
Mhm.
And so, these people would have done this,
Mhm.
and they have a hard time understanding our concepts anyway, right?
Mhm.
Because of
Yes.
that objectivity, that
Mhm.
lack of spirituality.
By the end of this chapter, she does itemize all the different areas. Right?
Yeah.
So when we do the next part, right, I think it kind of puts everything, like you see, you can visualize where Plato fit in, where all the other philosophers as they came along, just the build up. So I'm like, oh my goodness, all of that went on. And sometimes I wondered if it was intentional, but yes, it was very intentional.
Well,
You know,
what Plato did was, right? What Plato did definitely
it was
was.
intentional. And to have that then as the base of everything else, you know,
Yeah, yeah. It's just that's like the foundation. That's, as he said, that's the asili, right? The
really,
core of everything. So
yes, really.
yeah, it couldn't be any different now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Now, in the book, I mean, maybe we should go section by section, or y'all like this freestyling of going back and forth of different sections. Is there questions that anybody have written down? You know, excuse me. Any questions that anybody have written down?
I have a question for the
On the
very
line.
end of the bit that we read, but I can wait until other people.
Sure.
It might be
Your
useful.
microphone is
Yeah, it might be useful to just go through what the different headings were and see if there's anything else that
yeah,
Mhm.
can sum it up,
we'll do
sum up
that.
the
Let's
sections.
Mhm.
see if anybody got any questions first, just in case.
My pages are
Yeah, like the headings.
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
let's
definitely we'll go.
In the first section from page 33, it says, how, can you please expand on how or explain how we exchange symbols for objects? Does that
Anybody
make
wanna answer that?
What section is that?
Well,
Uh,
she's talking about like
Are
sort
they
of like
objectified?
the objectification, maybe the difference, right? Because how they went from, and I think this is related to the conversation we had about Homer and Plato. She wasn't here when we talked about that, but it deals with that section there in terms of Homer and Plato. Anybody want to talk about that, or
Is it page 33 though?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it.
Hang on, I did mark that symbols and
is
objects.
that page
Object
33, I believe?
I did make a reference to that. Hold on.
give me 1 second. I just got somebody wants to come in. Look over that while I send this person the link.
There is something here.
It's 34.
Symbolize. Hold on. I did make a note of that, but I can't.
Yeah, it's not about that.
No, it's not. Yeah.
Where is it?
okay.
Oh, it's about the dualities.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
So
duality is abound.
yeah.
Are they able to get in? The person?
Object based on right and wrong.
Yeah, I'm sending him the link right now. I think this guy is he works for the Shabbat School of Shabbat in Chicago.
Actually, a thing about
What?
no, there was something very specific about object and
In that those pages, I found it helpful to look up what the diunital and the dichotomy,
mhm.
The dichotomy.
Yeah,
because one is a comparison and the other is the difference. So it was comparing them. So it was helpful for me to look up those two definitions to get a deeper understanding of that portion on page 33 to about 37.
well, let me just explain since
I thought we were just waiting for the person to join. So.
well, I sent him the email.
Sorry about that.
Oh, okay.
So we can go
Well,
in
I
now?
just wanted to read on 32 before like we get
Okay.
into it, because that like talks about the objectified, and I'm gonna read from the end of like page 30. It starts with the creation of the object requires a transformation of the universe, no
Yes.
longer experienced, but rather objectified. The transformation is achieved through a changed relationship of the knower to the known. In the Republic, Plato performs this feat, a psycho-intellectual maneuver by which the subject is able to separate her or himself from the known. This separation is at once the key that opens up the way to knowledge as conceived by European, and the key that locks the door of the possibilities of the apprehension of the spiritual universe. I just want to read that because that was kind of like what we were talking about of taking that ourself from it, so we don't see the cosmos or see a connection to the universe. We're like the observer is on the outside looking in and objectifies it, so they're not connected to it. It's just like, oh, I'm viewing the world and I'm more so in control of everything that happens in the world.
I took that because of I came back to the whole thing about Homer, because Homer is poetic, and
Yes.
poets romanticize things. They make it they tap into the feeling of whatever they're talking about. And I took from that, if you take away feeling from whatever you're looking at and just go with the logic per se, right? With no feeling, now you can do something where it's like, hey, it makes sense for 1,000 people to die, so 10,000 can survive, right? Because now you don't feel the sadness of 1,000 people dying anymore. You just see the logic of 10,000 people surviving. That's where I got that. So I was like, and also the only way to tap into spirituality is not through thought, but through feeling.
Mhm.
Because you feel your spirit, you don't think your spirit. So
Yep.
I was like, I guess it's a good way to remove everybody else's form of power, which is we tap into feeling, into the spiritual for power. But if you don't have the feeling in the whole process anymore, we can't tap into our power anymore. Now we can only
That's the symbolic. That's the symbolic.
right.
You
So
know, so
that's
Kemet is a perfect example. When you go into these places and they're magnificent, right? And that's to give you that feeling about this is a special place, right? Now, their interpretation is the king got a huge ego, and so he wanted this magnificent pyramid.
Yeah.
Where's
Our
a place for
interpretation,
cows?
yeah,
They held the cows there.
our interpretation is like we're showing
Yeah.
people what we could do and how miraculous man is, right? Human beings are, right?
Yeah.
And it's sending a message. There's meaning behind these things.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like
Creative.
awesome. Like, imagine you build that pyramid and you're like, wow.
Right.
And the
That's-
people, when they come in, they're riding the camel and they see the white pyramid with the gold cap and the sun hitting that. And the pyramid is so high, it's scraping the atmosphere of the sky, causing some electrical currency going down. And let me not go that deep, but imagine that. Like you're been in a cold, you got some fur from some type of animal on you, and you come in and you see this miraculous thing. 3 pyramids, gold caps, polished things like, I mean, and some people may have had the reference to even understand some of those things that was happening. And the all of it, you guys some of you guys probably wouldn't. Hey, Linda, you went to Kemet before?
No.
What about you, Veronica?
A little.
You went to Kemet?
No, oh, no.
Oh, okay.
I haven't
But you went to Egypt,
been.
not Kemet.
So you went to Egypt, right? And you saw those things,
No,
right?
the pyramids and stuff. No, we just saw them through someone who went, and we saw this. You know, that was a little different, but it was good to have it like on that personalized level.
I mean, when you go to the museum, I've gone to the Met before, and it's like, damn, like wow, I'm in awe, and you feel like some goosebumps sometimes.
It's when I saw, remember Mr. Wickham's presentation of when his trip, and you see him standing beside a pyramid, and he's like a little small item like this one, all the way up. I had never thought that pyramids were so immense.
And what's so magnificent is they can't even build it right now with all the quote unquote technology.
They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to structure.
The contradictions that these people live by, right?
And going back to that question about the symbolism, one of the things that was mentioned in the beginning, this was on the first page when he was talking about the African worldview and how we started off viewing the world in terms of the universe, and we had a connection to it. But when Plato came up with his philosophy, he remove that connection. And now you could not think that you had any connection at all to the universe. So that was getting rid of the symbolism that we originally had, because we were all connected, we were all symbols. But then he removed that, and then we became the objects rather than a part.
Yeah. In the page 30, it says, but what Plato seemed to have done is to have laid a rigorous construction foundation for the repudiation of symbolic sense, the denial of the cosmos intuitive knowledge, which is higher than just rational knowledge. It is the process that we need to trace in the development in formative European thought, which we eventually have had such a devastating effect on non-technological aspect of culture. That's on page 30. And to be honest, this first section here, I found it to be like one of the more important parts of all the 5 sections. Because that's where they really dig into like her argument in terms of Plato, and what he represents, to this to what we living by right now today. Now the question that my wife had dealt with the second section, dichotomy and the notion of harmony. But do anybody have any questions or comments in regards to the first section that we read?
No, I think that's pretty clear. Yeah. That was we had it underlined as well.
Yeah, that's pretty clear.
I think I underlined some of these down here too. I did.
Remember, they even had these people adopted Plato. And I gotta admit, when I was younger, I used to consider myself a Platoist. I was against Aristotle. Because Aristotle created his own school, right? And when I was reading this, Aristotle even went further. And I'm like, And she brought me back. She brought me back from the Platoist things and stuff like that. And so they actually had a school, Platoism. Yeah. Like they had a study, and it was a school, and this is you chose sides of which So they really took this on, and it's promoted in the universities, especially. Now, besides the question that my wife had, anybody got any questions on the second section, or you think we addressed those things?
It's been a good follow-up as far as the structure of how she wrote this, because really in the first section she's kind of introducing the idea of Plato separating, the two realms, that like creating 2 realms of thought, creating that whole thing of like,
you can see,
instead of us being one, instead of there just being thought, or whatever, the whole concept of there being thought and then feeling, where it's like that. It's like I said, me and her had that whole argument about that you can't really think without feeling. It's I don't see how it could happen, right? Because you probably felt something that made you think something.
And I was saying, but that's what he's saying though. But he said that you can, and people really believe like that you can separate the two now because of that.
But you can have a thought come out of nowhere. Right? You ever meditated and you had thoughts that doesn't even belong to you, but it got there somehow?
Right, but then now that would be because then at that point I'll be like, well,
and you're not feeling.
Meditating, but that's what I'll come in, like when you're meditating, you're feeling, maybe you're feeling nothingness, or you're feeling emptiness, you're feeling something else. You're just feeling something beyond what you normally.
Nothingness is nothing. So it's not your.
But it still can be felt.
No, there's nothingness is a westernized concept, right? There's no such thing as nothingness.
Nothing. Right.
It's either it's there or it's not, right? So like,
if you're feeling like nothingness, it's a contradiction because
yeah,
it's like you're feeling something.
Right. That's what I'm
it's
saying. So,
circular, so it's like it's sci-fi, you know, like
right. That's what I was saying. Is like which didn't was like, okay, cool. I see the genius in what Plato did, because really, like, we feel, right. It's not something you can turn off. Right. You're feeling in every second from the moment you're born to the last second of your last breath you take. You always feel. Right.
well, you know, one of the things we could talk about, right, based on this, it allows you to rule with such punity, right? Like be a dictator whenever, because now you're separating yourself, and you're capable of like, oh, if I want them to do what I want them to do, I'm gonna do some of the most atrocious things in the world, right?
Mhm.
And so it doesn't connect you with these people, with the people you hurting. So it allows you to harm your environment. It allows you to harm people. It allows you to harm your husband and your wife and your kids and your family. It allows you to harm anything because you could detach that feeling, right? And then, you know, it also, I think it causes sociopaths, right? Because there's no empathy, you know, there's no connection. So this is why they needed rules like thou shalt not kill, because if you didn't have that, they would just be killing each other.
Right.
You
That's
know?
where I was coming, like with the thou shalt not kill. It's like, because I used to tell, like, I don't see why anyone needs to be told that, because no one wants to die, right? And then if I have to tell you thou shalt not kill, I'll be like, okay, well, kill yourself first. Then tell me if you want to kill, right? And then be like, no, I don't. Then you're like, okay, so why are you going to kill somebody else? Nobody wants to die.
Yeah,
right?
man.
When you feel that, you can like, logic or whatever.
It's a trip. It's a trip. And this is where we have like when Africans win a war, they always allowed their enemies a way out, right?
Yeah.
You know, they weren't going to war to create genocide. They were absorbed into the community and participated afterwards equally after paying the debt, right, of war. And so here, I mean, you know, this type of thinking could easily develop into like what they've done to the Jews, right? And what they've done to other people, how they massacre Native Americans, how they like enslaved Africans. And I mean, we haven't gone to the materialism yet, but we'll see. We'll see.
Even the concept of the ends justifies the means.
They do.
Yeah,
that reminds me of kind of like the animals thing, just how they use like animals or anything like that. And she was saying, I don't know what page that was, where she was saying that they kind of separate themselves, like, okay, animals, we can use them as far not seeing them as like connected to the universe or spiritual or anything like that. So it's like, okay, we can throw them in cages, give them syphilis, all this other stuff where you're doing it for the better good because they have no real connection to spirituality. So
right.
You know what's happening to them.
Well, they tell you animals don't feel. When we damn well know animals feel. You if you whoop them, they're gonna be like, right? and there has to be some type of thought process of how they're surviving, like the hunting. I'm like, how you not like? I know if we hunt, we're calculating, you know.
Yeah.
So they're doing the same thing. They're doing some form of that, right? And you know, and you know, they criticize other cultures too, right? That pray, like, you know, ask the universe for permission to use a tree. If they kill an animal, they don't want to be wasteful, you know.
Right.
And so they showed some type of respect, you know, not like these people when they came over here, they killed tons of buffalo.
Yeah, for no
And it was to like trying to starve people.
I'm looking at the 42 divine principles of Ma'at as we're speaking. And the things that they mentioned, is everybody familiar with the Ma'at?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, not its context, but just
so if you look it up when you have a minute, I have not caused disruption of peace.
Yep.
I have not acted hastily or without thought. I have not exaggerated my words when speaking. I have not stolen what belongs to God, goddesses. I haven't overstepped my boundaries of concern. I haven't stolen or disrespected from the deceased. I haven't taken food from a child. I haven't been angry without reason. I haven't closed my ears to the truth or terrorized anyone or disobeyed the law, told lies, carried away food, cursed, polluted myself, committed adultery, made anyone cry, felt sorrow without haven't polluted the water. All the of my act talk about the connection to the cosmos.
Yeah.
And remember, they're not commandments.
No, they're not.
No, I have
Yeah.
not. It's written in I have not.
They're what they call negative confessions, right? The negative, like, so, and actually to use those is there's a way to use those things as a ritual.
Aren't you supposed to start off in the morning, like I will not, and then go back through them?
Actually, you start at night. At night when you go to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah, before you go to sleep.
You haven't done it throughout the day.
So you review it. You review what you've done, and so whatever you accomplish there, have not accomplished, then you like, okay, I will focus on this tomorrow, and then you go into your sleep, and then you go to sleep, and that's a way of self-mastery and programming yourself. You actually program yourself these things, and in this hemisphere, you actually start in March. That's why I started the book club in February.
Woohoo.
There's a reason for everything. I actually sent you the diagram, right, Linda? I sent you a diagram with the cycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's related to that. Well, in terms of any other questions?
I had something underlined as well at the bottom of page 41.
Okay.
In other words, the structure of Platonic discourse itself forced those who used it to accept a particular concept of social order.
That's it. Old age kicks in here. Hold on. All the light he can get.
Anybody, you all know where I'm reading from?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm following you.
So I'll go over it again. In other words, the structure of Platonic discourse itself forced those who used it to accept a particular concept of social order. Brilliant. It's the very context of our speech.
In the very syntax.
In the very syntax of our speech.
You want me to read it?
My glasses is killing me.
Okay.
Hold on.
In the very syntax of us, it helps when you clean the glass of your glasses. But
Excuses.
In the very syntax of our speech, as we learn the English language, the justification of our inferiority is embedded, and what is more, we accept that fact as we master the language. Oh God.
Yes. I mean, this part is brilliant, right? Because see, like when you're dealing with like a Martin approach, you automatically are a divine being. You're not dealing with no type of inferiority. So when you I mean, go ahead. Let's continue reading so we could
And it is not accidental, given the nature of European cultural history, that the word master, which designates the male gender, oh God, we don't want to have that conversation again, Ralph.
No, here we have this conversation. Because we're dealing with Wazungas, but when we are among ourselves, we don't deal with that.
Designates the male gender means to gain control over. Carry on?
Yeah.
Indeed, this analysis of Platonic thought is not merely an academic exercise. It helps to expose the oppressive and repressive forms within European and Euro-American culture that shackle Africans and other non-Europeans, and to a lesser extent, women. Why is that speech Why is it that speech in European-derived societies is the mark of status in the culture? And why is it that African people in America and the Caribbean have maintained such distinct language styles? Here we have the intuitive resistance to a change in consciousness, the creation of African-influenced languages in circumstances of oppression can be understood as a force that insists on the maintenance of an ancestral worldview.
Nijami actually texted me like, yo, we're meeting? And I'm like, yeah. I'm telling him to check his spam. Now, what she wrote there is brilliant. So
Mhm.
Yeah,
Really is. I was thinking that because, like I was telling you, I tuned in because Professor Small, James Small, right? He did like a live on this group where he was talking about this and brought it up. I know, like, oh, we're not going to get in the man concept, but he was just bringing up like the African view on women and how, you know, the thought process of the first time that God manifest as a human was by a woman so they can create. And then next was man. And it was like saying, as far as like the women in Africa would see the man that's like, and pick the leader and be like, this is our king. This is the one that we want to follow. And they usually go by the women and how the women feel as far as on the leadership, and just taking that from us.
hence why the throne is all set.
Mm-hmm.
All set is the throne, right? So it's funny, like what they try to do, right? And this is where this is very important. What they try to do is they're like, oh, the pharaoh does this, that, the other, and they are patriarchy and all this, and man always been ruling. Like, no, that's not, that narrative was not the case. The all set is she, like her symbol. If you look at her the meta nature of all set, damn, I wish I had it with me. Hold on. Well, just look
Is
it
it the
up.
throne?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
I have it all set.
Jesus. Let me see if I got it on the phone. If y'all get a chance to look it up online, you will see that her symbol corresponds with the throne. And there's a reason why Heru sits on her lap. Because in the baby, he's sitting on the throne. And then they take that, and then they had Jesus and Mary with the same position.
Yeah.
You know, so there was always a recognition of a complementary thing going on. It was not this patriarchal matriarchal BS that the Western society has given us, right?
And I noticed like men started saying, oh, so women don't need men. And I was like, no, we're supposed to be complementary. We need both or anything. Without each other, there's a lack of wholeness. So it's like hearing one thing is automatically seen as, oh, okay, then women are trying to be over men, or it's a feminist. And it's like, no, we need both. If it was without men, women would need men and vice versa.
Now,
we didn't separate the two and put a hierarchy. We just saw it as
if you look here above her head, right, that's the throne, right? And in Meta Nature, they also have it in regular, like the symbol. And she the Queen Mother has a role in this, and there's reasons why things are being done a certain way, and it's important to understand the reason. What happens is we have a Western interpretation of these things, right, and really propaganda, you know, and we've been brainwashed with it, and so how we think harm us because of what Linda's just read, right? That section.
Can you show that picture again, Rob?
Okay.
The image?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yes, and she was reading from the bottom of on to page 42.
That's Osset or ISIS. I've got the same image and it's saying ISIS at the bottom.
Yeah, ISIS is the Greek version.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, all
That is the original word for, yeah.
yeah,
And ISIS is the Greek.
ISIS, like Horus is Heru.
Mhm.
So you know the you know
Yeah.
what came first.
Yeah. Mhm.
Kemet came first. All set came first.
There you go. They
Yeah.
give you a new name.
Mhm.
But I guess that's part of the whole genius of everything, right?
Hold on. Jinyami is saying he's getting the meeting of last week and not this week. So let me copy this link and send it to him real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, so Lindis, I mean, you could, if you read that section that you read is very important and is related to what we just discussed. Because what happens is we accept it and now we indoctrinate it, right? We become indoctrinated by it.
Yeah, it talks about language though. It talks about how language is used to really cause you to think along a certain lines, right?
Yeah. Yes. The like, look at how their language don't have meaning. Remember how like it's meaningless to the point where they have to make so many laws, right? They're constantly making laws. You know, like when Bill Clinton got caught, he beat them by saying it depends what is mean, right? Did you have, you know, and then, you know, I don't want to get into it, but he basically was, you know, this arguing the particle, like, like, okay, here he is.
And if we try that, we just get hauled off to jail.
Right. Remember, they're part of this thing is they make exceptions to the rule, right? They always have different standards, and this is where you have this separation in terms of standard, right? And white supremacy is part of that, right? And so we're basically discussing the genesis of the thought process that created white supremacy.
It is.
Yeah.
And during the period of enslavement, one of the things that they actually did was to ensure that they separated you, right, from you know, from your from your people, so that you couldn't speak your language. And if you were caught speaking your language, you were beaten, and you know, just the atrocious treatment. And if they found that any enslaved African could speak English and speak their language well, they were brought up into the house and celebrated and became part of the, the in group in the house.
Well, that's part of the indoctrination, right?
Yeah.
And so what they do is they have you assimilate,
Yeah.
right? That's what we're starting to discuss here, and so we can actually now come and like have a source in a vocabulary to describe what exactly happened in assimilation.
Yeah.
And then we got to ask, was it a good thing? You know, was any type of assimilation in a good thing? Right? That's the question.
Is that a rhetorical question?
It's rhetorical. It's rhetorical because the verdict is personal, right? So for me, you know, I could give you my opinion on it, but it doesn't mean that's your opinion, because outside of that, like the thing is, I'm trying to get back to the source, right? I'm not trying to have nothing. I'm trying to detox from whatever they're doing. I'm not for assimilation, right? Because it's been destructive, right? It's been causing all these problems. And excuse the language, but if I take a dunk on a floor, separate what's good about the dunk, about the feces. You can't, you have to recreate something, right? You got to do the Sankofa and recreate something that originally was us, right? We can't use that Essini. How are we going to bear fruit from that? It's not meant for us.
Nope.
And plus, even if I was a white person, I would not want to be like that.
It's true.
There's white people that'll tell you, y'all need to take over because we're messing this place up. I've had friends tell me that. So people know the problem is they cannibalize, well, not literally, but they attack and destroy anybody who wakes up from their group. And you know, they're afraid of us waking up.
Oh yeah.
That kind of reminds me of like the Black Lives Matter and the white people that got murdered by that kid that just went and started shooting people and went out with his gun. It was like,
You
as
talk
soon
about the
as they're
17-year-old in Michigan, was it
yeah,
Michigan?
that came from, I forgot where he came from, but a whole other state with his gun, and he killed 2 white people. And you know, normally that would be an offense to them, but because their association with marching with Black Lives Matter, they got that same kind of treatment. Well, what were they doing? It was self-defense, kind of sort of thing, as far as like they must have done something to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's them. At this point, they're dealing. That's the problem. And you know, Fanon writes about this. You know, he writes. Franz Fanon writes about how colonialism actually hurt the European themselves. There was massive suicide rates going on because they were committing atrocities that even they can't handle, and they were giving orders to, and so people were killing themselves. Fanon actually writes that in Black Skin and White Mask. If y'all ever want to, you know, get that book, Fanon is an awesome. He was a psychologist. He's giving you a psychology. See, I like this because this is an anthropological analysis. Fanon gives you a psychological analysis. You know.
Fanon is great. Yeah.
Now, we could Jinyami. Ninyami. I'm always say Jinyami because I see it and it's Ninyami. Ubuntu.
Was good.
Hotel. We were discussing a lot of things, man. I wish he was here, bro. But do you have any questions? Or have you written any questions down? Were you able to read the 5 sections?
Yeah, I had some. I'm bringing my wife on. She wants to get involved. Introduce yourself.
Mrs. Ubuntu.
Yeah, there you go. Hello. Hello. Peace.
Do you have a question?
No,
in regards to the reading, we're focusing on a reading. We're actually in the second section of the reading. But if you got any questions in general, since you just came in, because we also asked that first.
Okay, no, we don't have a question here.
Okay. So the next section, anybody have any questions about that? Hey, babe, you have any questions in regards to that?
Are we on the theory of humanness?
I'm all set for now.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just making sure. Or wait, are we on the
Niyami,
evaluation of the senses?
Mrs. Santana is my wife. So this is a family thing.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Which section are we on? The devaluation of the senses or theory of humanness?
Theory of humanness.
The theory of humanness. Now, out of my right, that's the part where she talks about Descartes. I mean, I hated dealing with Descartes. No, that ain't Descartes yet, right? That we passed
Oh,
Descartes.
I don't
no,
think
yeah,
so.
that is it. It's the self, right?
Left brain, right brain.
Okay,
Yeah.
there you go. I
Mhm.
got it. I mean, this is some of us kind of already. I don't know, but in the conscious community, people understand the functions of left and right brain. Is people are people familiar with those things?
Mhm.
See the Wazunga.
I hear it at least once a week.
Yeah, the Wazungas are very left brain oriented,
Yeah.
right? And that's the problem. I mean, Raul Neframim called them Setians because Set kind of represent the left side of the brain. Also, that's where the European got their concepts of the devil and stuff like that. And Set deals with the science. The left brain separates everything. The right brain see the holistic of everything. The left brain deal with the particular. So
And
as you can see, she's arguing that Plato basically is like being more left oriented, dealing with just rationalism, and not being. And actually, Raul Neframim said this is the reason why the Europeans were the last to civilize. He said because they were left brain. My question to him was, were they ever civilized, right? Like who because you need civility to be civil, right? Like, and so I mean that section seemed but she in this section is where she talks about Michael Bradley. It's in, I think it's in the it's in 45. In the bottom she mentions Michael Bradley, and I think Miss Wheeler mentioned about how they treat animals and stuff like that. I think we touched upon
Okay.
that.
Yeah, the bottom of the second paragraph, third paragraph, second
Yeah,
paragraph.
yeah. I mean, if nobody got any questions or want to discuss that, if things are understood, we can move on. I mean, she discussed Socrates. She mentioned Socrates here and all.
It does talk about on page 46, the top paragraph, about the left and right brain thing. A related point to be made here is that while all cultures and all people involve both hemisphere modes, so to speak, in normal functioning cultures, and therefore their members can value one style of cognition over another. In such cases, one will be emphasized and encouraged, while the other is not. A person will be rewarded for thinking in the valued mode,
Yep.
which is what they see as valuable, right?
Capitalism.
Huh?
Capitalism.
Okay, and such habits of thought will be reinforced in the formalized learning and socialization processes. The same person will be punished for thinking in the devalued mode and will fail for doing so. So I'm assuming they're looking at the left-sided brain being the more dominant and valued compared to the artistic or creative side of the right brain.
And this is where you get your prejudice against women from. This
And
is
they
where
say
the
women are right brain. Side
yes,
of the brain, right.
right. This is where the Wazunga, why he devalues his woman, right? Because he doesn't see like he doesn't see like the importance of the right brain. The right brain is for creativity. The right brain is for holistic thinking. The right brain is for the imagination. And so for him, art, and if you see Kemet is full of art, right? It's Kemet, the ultimate science of Kemet is the unification of both hemispheres of the brain. For all human beings, not man or woman.
So the interesting thing is, from a scientific standpoint.
No, remember, this is what she's saying. Science.
I know, but I'm just saying, So they only knew what they knew then, right?
Who?
And whoever decided left and right was whatever. But really, they know so little about the brain's function that they made it very cut and dried. And in reality, the two sides of the brain connect. Your right side may not have the same things in your right side that anybody else in this group has on the right side. And so what they're finding now is that it's not purely left and right. That's me coming from the scientific background and saying a lot of these things are probably being debunked in this day and age with the increased research they're finding to do with the brain. I'm just throwing that out there, just to throw another little.
Yeah, I concur that the brain is more balanced than what we thought.
But they made it very simplified to suit their needs back in the day, because that's all they knew. They only know what they studied. What they haven't studied, they don't know. And the study, even in my few years of working, the study of the brain is so deep and vast that now they could not write this stuff.
And understand though, they all about separating things, right?
Yeah.
Like I want my whole brain. I want all of it. I'm not here about left brain and right brain. I want my whole brain, right?
Right.
To me, if you take my left hemisphere, I want that. Take my right, no, I want that too.
And the funny thing is, if you have a stroke in your right hemisphere, they look at a cat. I do this all the time, and I just don't even bother to look at the results anymore. What shows up on the CAT scan, they use that and they go, you should be able to do this, 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 and this. And people do it. And now they go, oh my God, you're not supposed to be able to do that.
Yeah. I mean, you can, they don't, and the thing is, they don't, the brain is so miraculous, right? It's like, it can even create new neurons to bypass damaged parts, right?
That's what I do. I create new neurons in my treatment. I know it works.
Yeah, and so repetitiveness, but they don't really know the science of it. Actually,
they actually are now. They do know.
But we knew the science back then. It was like before
we knew intuitively how the brain worked. We didn't know what each section was or what it did. But I think in the way that we worked equally both sides of the brain, we knew.
But we focused, when we did medicine, we did holistic medicine.
Yes.
It wasn't this, because even in terms of section, right? Like they say, just because that section may favor your speech, for example, doesn't mean in totality if it's just speech only. Right.
It really doesn't, and it doesn't have to be in that part of everybody's brain. So
right.
Really think
about. And so this, like I was saying, this affects even science. It delays science because they never deal with the whole. Like they'll deal with some, like even whatever they deal with, they never take in a holistic approach to it, where they'll have a doctor just for the pinky toenail, right? Oh, I'm an expert for the pinky toenail of the pinky. Like they specify so much and not dealing with, okay, how that pinky toe operate with your whole entire body and how it functions in regards to balancing yourself. This they don't deal with those things. They just deal with particular. And so they like to dissect, right? I remember this girl, there was a girl a long time ago, they took one of her hemisphere of the brain and they were like, oh, she didn't need it. Right? And so she had some problems and I'm like, man, cannabis would have helped that girl. Like, because she had, what they call those episodes, like seizures. She had seizures. Seizures. Right. And so they don't deal with, because they're not dealing with a holistic, they could have just, cannabis those neurons and it would have been more effective than losing an entire half of the brain. And again, that's dealing with, a matter of fact, there's people in our community that'll talk about there's no such thing as white white science and black science. You know,
What?
and
What?
white science, right? And
Like
I argue,
European.
yeah, European. I argue there is white science, and it's science that comes from this perspective, right? And then there's science, and then there's white science. And white science is coming from this perspective, right? Like this is like really, and we need to. This is why I deem it important that like our community really get involved. People who are conscientious, right? Self-aware, that are into science. They need to. I mean, I understand if they were to talk the way we're talking, they'll be ostracized, right? And this is why we need self-sufficiency. This is why we need to practice those principles from Kwanzaa. Truly, like, I mean, like, we're really not even understanding the stuff that we're practicing, how deep and how powerful it is, you know? And this is all part of those things, you know? When we talk about sovereignty, we're talking about detoxing from this Plato, Aristotle form of thinking, this westernized way of thinking, you know. What's the next section?
I think that's
Were we going up to page 51? Was that the end of this read?
No, the new.
I thought it was 56. Yeah.
Dominant mode.
We only read up to 51.
Yeah, the other one.
Bless you.
That's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I mean, we covered a lot. But the new dominant mode, I think that's what you was alluding to, Dulcinea.
Yeah, when they started to do the literacy and talk about literacy over the symbolic and really breaking down like the meta-netter. But like even the concept, what I was thinking of, like the pyramid of when they come up with their deductions of what the pyramid was, it's always funny. Like they'll be like, oh, there's cows on the wall, so it was for hoarding cows, or because of this
literal.
one thing, it's it's electricity, that's all it could be, or anything like that, where when you're really seeing it, like it vibrates at a certain frequency, it's lined up to the stars of Orion, they're lined up to the stars and different things, so it's like it had multi-function that they can't.
Hey, now you get into the conversation that I was getting earlier, right? It's granite, it's actually a crystal, right? So it was being polished, and it was white with a gold cap. Now, if anybody know about the gold cap, there's a way to actually, I mean, that, like I tell people all the time, the gold cap is actually like scratching the atmosphere, like all the like kinetic energy that exists in the atmosphere is being activated, right? And even under the pyramid, when you get zigzag water, you actually, if you have a rod, there's actually a current that start developing on the rod, right? So there's a lot of effects that we just are oblivious to what's going on. And what's interesting is, if you look at every major city, right, this influenced even our modern cities in the United States, where the cities have gold domes. Like there's always a gold dome in it. And, you know, some people say, oh, that's to bring prosperity to the area, you know, to connect the above and the below and stuff like that. I mean, but these are, I mean, I'm giving you like theoretical points where people theorize about these things, what they could be and stuff. And it's interesting, you know. Me, I listen to everything, and then, you know, sometimes I just have it in the back of my mind, and then I may run into information that will open it or be inspired, right? Be inspired, and all of a sudden, like, the answer is right there, boom.
Yep.
So is there any other topics people want to bring up?
No, I'm just enjoying the fact that she keeps showing that separation in every aspect of even the left brain, right brain thing. It's like breaks down back to feeling versus logic.
Well, this is where she talks about objectivity. We're talking about objectivity from being born to you die, like the whole thing, like this. How we say the universe is expanding, right? I'm gonna give you a quick example. The universe is expanding, they're saying, quote unquote. They said Edward Hubbard discovered that the universe is expanding, which is a lie. He didn't. He corrected himself and everything and tried to tell them no, because the expanding of the universe existed coincide with their religious God created, with a word and the Big Bang, right? It relates to that. If the universe is expanding and you are a part, do everybody agree they're a part of the universe, by the way?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that would be hard to disagree with.
Right,
My wife was like, yes.
I'm outside. I'm awoken.
So if we're gonna make the statement that the universe is expanding, shouldn't we be expanding as well? Like it doesn't make sense, right? If I'm not disconnected from the universe from what I know, right? I'm very like if that sun blows up, like I know it's gonna affect me. If the planet don't have any gravity, I know I'm gonna be launched like out of this planet, like woo. And so we don't look at things critically, and we overpass a lot of things. There's a lot of assumption in science nowadays, right? Like there's people, I mean, the atheists, right? People will say, oh, the universe is not intelligent. There's the creationism, they'll be like, oh, intelligent design equals creationism, right? And I'm like, okay, let's look at that, right? Are you intelligent? How many people here will raise their hand and say they're intelligent?
Everybody?
Intelligent?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was like,
Janelle, you don't think you're intelligent? You're muted. You're muted. I can't even hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all think y'all intelligent.
I'm intelligent.
I mean, your wife is laughing. She's like, oh, that's a lie. So if we're intelligent, right? You're part of the universe, bro, right? So the universe got to be intelligent, because something don't come from nothing. Right. And this is where they really this is where it stems from, this objectivity.
But those assumptions, they go with everything, all their, not just science, the history, the math. I laugh all the time because I just enjoy watching the History Channel.
We give them the benefit of the doubt by calling it assumption. But is there a seeming?
Yeah, they're silly, because it'll be something random or something like they'll say, oh, this queen, and they'll just be talking about a statue, and they're like, oh, she forced them. She put, like, how do you know that she forced them to build that? Or it was tyranny that the reason why they built that.
Or she wearing a beard, trying to look like a man. Like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, exactly. Like, where did you get that from? Or if there were kids, it was like a burial ground for kids. They were like, they sacrificed kids to the gods. Like, what? Where did you get that from, a burial ground for kids?
This is what gets me about how they think. I remember coming up and they were saying the universe is mostly nothing. And then they say nothing doesn't mean nothing. It's something, but it's nothing scientifically. That doesn't make sense. If I was to tell a kid that, they would think I was crazy. That nothing doesn't really mean nothing. So why call it nothing then? To me, it's confusion, the way they describe the universe. Like he said, okay.
This is actually like adding, like giving me encouragement, because I actually was going to try to write a book called The Rejection of the Concept of Zero, right? Because zero, they created, if we see how zero was created, zero was originally a placeholder.
Yep.
Tell me what's the property of zero? What quantity zero has? what qualities zero has. So if we start accepting these things without true understanding, this is why people be like, oh, history ain't important. We need to deal with the here and now. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay.
I hear that all the time.
I'm like, listen, the concept of time and this mechanicalistic thing that we talk about time is nothing but a way to measure something.
Change. It measures change.
Yeah. Right? It's a duration, even if it doesn't change, right? We were like, okay, it is a cycle thing, right? It cycles. So we could say it, we could determine something change or not, right? So it's a way, it's a unit of measure. That's it. It's a tool. It's not a, so when we talk about even quantum physics, right? We'd be like, oh, the space-time continuum. Space-time continuum. I mean, like some of this stuff is like, and I've been looking at things for quite a while, you know, and I lean towards a certain school of thought, but when we examine the universe, we now have to examine it with fresh eyes and with the detoxification of like how the West view things, right? And even the West know that some of them started they've been starting adopting Eastern philosophy and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, they're gonna know because they don't wanna go back to Kemet because they don't want us to know what's up, right? They're like, oh, we don't want to go to Africa. And then the Chinese do a DNA analysis about their stuff and realize their African ancestry in them too.
Yeah.
Right. So then it blows out the concept of race, right? Race is a social construct. It's not science. It's not real science, right? And so I talk about race as real in the terms of sociological and political, and how this group of people are trying to dominate the world. And the key word is dominate, because you cannot control a matrices with so many variables. That's why, they say, be careful you wake the Black Messiah, right? Now those who have been taught in Abrahamic faith will think, oh, one man. The Messiah, we are all one. So the Messiah is if we all wake up. That's why I don't like me and Linda's always go back and forth. I don't like when we deal with us, I don't like the separation. Because yes, women are oppressed. The white man oppresses white woman, right? So the white man could say, the white woman could say, the Europeans could say, he's oppressing me, right? But you can't say that we don't have no power to do it. We in the same boat as you are. And what many have done is chosen to the side of the white women instead of being like, well, I'm oppressed by him too, and he's oppressing my man.
What comes back to this really, this concept that she was saying of the separation, because we all have this concept. So when we reject, when white women reject the whole concept of the man, they automatically say, okay, I'm supposed to be over men because I'm the more emotional, I'm the more caring,
and they're lying, and they're lying.
Because they're the same. They have the same
because they end up getting married, just like in general, they end up getting married, right?
Yeah.
And so
they follow them.
Yeah.
What they did, just like they were like, oh, Black women saved us with voting.
When that money get in their pocket, they were like, yeah. They'll and then they'll go into Cosmopolitan and promote that separation as a good thing while they secretly are married, and then they selling goods and products, right? So they keep us separated. We're not together. So now there's your kidneys got 2 homes, 2 pairs of underwears, 2 cars, like everything is separated. So everything he needs in one home, he or she needs one, they need to be double of that. So you spend more money. So this is a scheme for money. It's a scheme for power, their maintenance of power. And if you look at her chart, look at the chart, the one with the arrow pointing up.
That's the second one. Mhm.
That's what happens. They defined what we're doing. They defined the very thing that we're doing, right? And we follow the structure, and then we empower them because we have surrendered. And really, we should be like, F you, we're gonna do what we got to do to survive. And that's what we were doing before when they had segregation.
Oh yeah.
In the United States. They were doing that in the United States. They had town, wealth, and guess what happened? They got bombarded because they understood we need to maintain power. Like bump that.
You're stepping on the holy grail when you talk about the 50s and the 60s, the civil rights movement.
Brown versus the Board of Education, and when Martin Luther King was like, "I'm integrating into a burning house." Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we have to now be more effective in how we use energy, right?
Yeah.
And we can't just simply just follow who wrote those narratives. Did you write those narratives?
No.
Anybody of importance wrote those narratives? What were the result of the narratives we've been following in the first place? Right? From what I've seen, just living in the nothing has gotten better since I was born. I see things getting worse. Even when we get paid more, our parents were able to do more with the less money they got because of inflation. How many people even know what democracy means? How many people even know like what capitalism means, right? These are places we're living at. Do we truly understand its nature? And so what she does, she did the whole analysis for anybody to come in and start from the beginning of where the academics, the elites actually started from. Because they've been like this, but what they did is they institutionalized it. Plato had a school. Aristotle had a school.
That's the only way to get it done. Yeah.
Hey, we need Sunday schools,
Sunday school.
So they learn how to read and write. When they come back, we're
in Sunday school right now.
Well, I mean, this is a book club. I mean, I understand some people, they haven't read for a while, and so they need assistance, right? And part of it is, there's going to be people who are much more aware, who've been studying these things, and we have to be able to, as a group, we can't leave nobody behind, right? I'm talking about in those who wish to be involved, right? Those who wish to be involved, then okay, we're going to help those who wish to be involved. And to be honest, once we're done with this book, you know how few people actually read her book? They have the book, but you know how many people haven't really read the book?
Right, that the introduction.
Because a lot of people say they've read it, but they'll do some skimming and stuff. And then when you have that conversation with them, so when you guys finish this book, y'all gonna be part of this elite group. You see what I was doing? I was like playing to the same thing, like no, but basically
we could probably read another book, like the next one is going to be like in 30 days in comparison to this one.
Well, this book, I mean, there's professors that will tell you that is a tough book, right? Okay. And really it's because those professors haven't written it. I mean, I haven't read it. And if this is academic stuff. This is at the college level stuff.
Yeah, she's getting into Descartes, And you know, you learn that in college, in philosophy class.
I hated Descartes, yo. Yo, you know he was insane, right? You know he became crazy. Well, he was crazy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And in European standards, he was insane. And he died of, I think he didn't want to eat or something like that. Yeah, man. I mean, you gotta be careful who you follow.
Right,
and,
right.
And you gotta.
But it's standard in their philosophy.
Yeah, in their philosophy. Yeah. I mean, even Einstein. Look at how they promote Einstein so much, right? There's a brother who just passed away in December. His name is Dr. Edward Dowdy. And if Yami, if you're interested in the Edward Hubble's work, where he proves that the universe is static after he realized he made a mistake, and they're always using him. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, or which one is the astrologer?
Yeah, that's Neil.
Okay, so I also know he don't read, because he should know who Edward Hubble is. They created a telescope under his name, but Edward Hubble was a G, and I have his paper, by the way. So I'm like, okay. So a lot of people in Facebook, there were people that were like, oh, you know, the expansion, and you know, and then I said, do you know Edward Hubble? Because that's who they focusing the article on, right? And I'm like, this article is misrepresenting Edward Hubble. And then he got all on me, and then I said, okay, have you ever studied Edward Hubble before? And he's like, he gives me this runaround. I said, listen, I got his works. Do you have it? I can send it to you. And they were like, then the truth come out. Oh, you know, I just posted the article. I'm like, how you don't vet the article? You just post it because it make you feel tingly, some kind of religiously, some kind of way? Because that's, you know, she argues that too in the book, how like science is like a religion. Now, I didn't recollect that, but I thought the same way, right? It was so interesting to find out that even back then she was thinking like that. Like, oh, shoot. How could I have missed this? I should have been thinking about it all along. Got a hangnail that I messed up. Yeah, so with Edward Dowdy, he proves Einstein's theory of relativity, killed it like blah. And they don't want that, you know, he used to work at NASA. He retired from NASA. The brother, I may have his video if you're interested, you guys, about knowing about it. But this is a black man who proved Einstein theory wrong. He was from NASA. He was credited. He's part of their institution. You know, very religious too, very religious, which was interesting. They're like, Dowdy, how can you like, I guess with science, he was like, but he was very, very like super Christian, you know. But he proved Einstein theory wrong. And people, that it wasn't a big deal, because why? Because with Einstein, they promote him as a genius, right?
Yeah.
And the problem is that human beings are just geniuses. That's our natural state. Genius means talent, that's all. It comes from the word genie, which comes from the, you know, Arabic word jinn. A jinn is the equivalent of like a netter or a orisha. And there's good jinn and bad jinns in Islam. But anyways, it's already, we're gonna close out.
Bajan?
No, I think it's John.
But it could be.
Yeah.
I was just saying there's a term in Trinidad called Bajan. I'm probably not saying it correctly. You just said there's good gene and bad gene, and I just said Bajan. And it probably is the same.
Yeah, it has the same meaning, right?
Same meaning.
Well, you know, the Bajan is probably like a Creole type mixture, you know, like what the English would say, bad English.
No. Bajan is like a person. It's a descriptive word where
yes.
Yeah, yes. On a negative level, right?
Yes, that's a bad gin. You know.
Agun, I think, would be the phonetic spelling of it. But probably derived from gen. That's the bad gen.
Yeah.
Never had good gens in Trinidad, apparently.
Well, they're associated with bad, right? Genie.
Yeah.
They're associated with bad stuff.
He would have been a bad gen because he used to play pan. In Trinidad, if you played pan, you are pan man.
Ah.
Bad connotation. So they were badgers.
You're being exposed, Eugene. Niyama, you were gonna say something?
I wouldn't let them define me, you know.
I'm just saying.
Another object.
But you know, because that show, what's that show that used to be in the 80s? You are not a something. That was the phrase of a sci-fi kind of show. You are not object. If it comes back to me, I remember. We had it in England. I'm sure you had it in the States. I can't think what it is, but it actually is this. It actually told people what they were not, and they acted like robots. And this was a real show. Anyway, I'll find the name. I can't right now.
Some corny English stuff, guys.
I think it was American, actually.
What you was gonna say, brother?
I was just saying, but she answered it. I could hear the English accent in her, but the Trinidad accent in him, but she said she's from England.
No,
right?
she's from Trinidad too.
Oh.
But she went to England. Well, she was taken to England at the age of 8.
Oh, okay.
Oh, and you got assimilated.
Let's just keep it simple. One is bougie and the other one is not. Listen, I love Linda's, but she doesn't got a nickname like Cool Breeze. I call Eugene Cool Breeze. So that's how her British accent comes from. She was raised there.
Dragged.
She was
You got a
kidnapped.
better excuse than I do.
Can you hear his accent? He's from Zimbabwe, but it's been a while, so he's always like it's gone.
Right. And I moved here when I was 15, so that,
there you go.
But as I'm saying,
hold on. If you're not living in Africa, we're all immigrants in the West. We're living in the wilderness of North America.
Yeah, it took me a while to realize, this is not what it's cracked out to be. Yeah. It's just, coming from from Zimbabwe, just the level of poverty and stuff that happened at the time I left, anyone was just, you were ready to leave, but and it comes back down control. Just Zimbabwe had something somebody wanted and they did anything they could to get it.
Yeah. I mean, most people, first of all, when we look at poverty, right, there's a tendency of looking at it in a materialistic sense, right? But we also have to see that poverty, like the oppressed nature of the situation is caused by foreign agents. Even when your leadership is betraying the people, if that's the case, it's always a foreign element in terms of stealing the continuation and the raping of the continent of Africa. It's always the case. There's not one case that's not what's happening.
I just saw a video where the villagers found in Congo, they found gold, and I'm just like, oh, I just know they're coming. The Europeans are coming. Well, the villagers were just out going through the gold. They found like a whole mountain full of gold.
It's not a question if, it's a question when.
They're coming. They're coming.
But sooner or later they'll create digital gold where they'll create this fake value, which is happening, with cryptocurrency. They're calling Bitcoin could be the digital gold, right? And so, I mean, yeah, I recognize that have some values in terms of transactions that you could do. and I'm not going to explain blockchain here because it's not the subject matter, but there are, this is what they're trying to do. And if we're not conscientious of what's going on as well as what went on, then a lot of times how you're defining yourself doesn't come from self. It's coming from somebody else. So you got to ask yourself what narrative you following, whose narrative you following. Is it your narrative or one that's been programmed for you to follow?
And that's really difficult, because when talking to the greater world, the greater African world, even Africans have been colonized. Africans aren't Africans anymore. We've all been colonized.
It's been restructured.
Yeah. So we're trying to get back to these terms. Like when I speak in terms of communal activity, collective, the way we should work. Oh, you're a socialist. And I accept it because they don't know any other. Right. That's the only way they can see it. Oh, you're a socialist.
See, but I would not accept it because I'll leave it open. I say, I'm not a socialist. I'm something different. And leave it as that. Why? Because at least they know there is something different and they can't label you. They can't lock you down. Because once they label you a socialist, everything shuts down. Right?
Right, that is true.
And so what I say is, I'm not a socialist, I'm something else. And if they want, if it sometimes that allows them to then ask a question. And what you do is you start whispering and be like, well, I don't know if I want to deal with that. And then they're gonna really ask, and then you like, yeah, I got him. It's like a fish on a hook. Like, oh, yeah. I mean, because there's ways of communication, and you gotta use everything, bro. And if the seed spark, I definitely don't believe that everybody's gonna be saved. They're gonna be casualties of this intellectual warfare. The greatest enemy is gonna look just like you.
Oh yeah. And it always starts with a small group.
Yeah.
That becomes the center of the wheel, and then everything follows along that central piece. It's just how strong that central piece is. It could be 1% of the population, but that 1% could be so strong it affects everything around it.
What about the children? My whole focus is the children, because there's all this talk, like you said, I agree, not everybody's gonna get saved. So then I'm focused on the children. It's like, well, here are we're birthing all these babies. I mean, it's so easy for us to have all these babies, but it's the time to really, like you said, really know who we are and really impart them, because they're gonna be here when we're gone, right? And they're like everyone else, like you said, it's not gonna be saved. So it's like, okay, the children.
Yeah, I mean, but this is why we have to try to leave a legacy.
Exactly.
Right? Yes. And so, and their children is also going to be a casualty, right? Because that's just the nature of the war. Like the main thing you need to worry about is your children, right? So you start with the individual. You start from the woman, right? Then and the man, right? Mm-hmm. From there, the children, right? And then that's where you create the family, right? Then from family, then you have another family. That's where you create the community. And then when families get together big enough, then that's where you get to the nation. Now, the application of any type of African principle like Kwanzaa or Ma'at or any other, that's where you start developing a civilization, because then you start cultivating the value. Now, if we able to start something small and we bring these type of values in, it can become self-refueling, right? And so even if you send your kids off to school, they at least will have you have developed something where they can come back home to, where they don't have to compromise themselves working for somebody who hates them, right? Or don't care about them and views them as an object. So there's mistakes that has been done. What was that? Lindis, you had,
Sounds like a plug for ACHA.
yeah, yes. I mean, this is why actually I got involved with those people in Canada, you know. I got involved with them because they had a good platform and I appreciated what they did. And immediately when I said, listen, I want to do something, they already had a job for me to do, right? And so we able to produce something real quick, faster than what I thought, with some of the worst videos I've ever seen. Nah, I just throwing daggers. I'm throwing daggers. Maybe. No, but we created a good project, and it was a project that I think people could use to understand what Kwanzaa is, right? And it was, you know, look at YouTube. Yep. Somebody introduced the organization. Like, what, put the YouTube
Oh yeah,
channel
put
there
it in here.
so they could take a look at it.
Find in her website. But expanding on what she said about the kids, like it's very important. Like we do have to, and to see it like as a community, like not only my kids, but like that all kids that are African based are extensions.
Well, understand
when
we're dealing with this conversation, in your mind, you should be thinking that this is also incorporating your kids. You should never separate the two. You know,
because we're kind of talking about the Sealy when I go to Dr. Benina and friends, and she was like, "What do you think white people would do if they hear a kid is like that's going to change everything and they're born in July or anything like that?" And they were like, she was waiting for us to say, and she was like, "They're gonna kill all the kids born in July. They're gonna kill if they hear, oh, it's gonna be a man that is his." Born in March, it's going to be a firstborn kid. They're going to kill all the firstborn kids just so they can get rid of it. So it's not just like a one thing, like you have to worry about your kid, because as soon as they attack, that's just their thought process of just
and understand that there is a population control thing in the university. When you reach the master level, they really talk about it. I had massive arguments. I left my master program because of that, because I was like, my master program was international studies, and my focus was African and the Caribbean, right? And I was doing a dissertation tying Puerto Rico to the Pan-African movement in the diaspora, because Garvey was in Puerto Rico when he had one of his biggest organization was in PR. And so a lot of people are not aware of those things. A lot of people don't even know I am Puerto Rican. You know, I mean, I still think I got a little bit of an accent left. I don't know. Maybe my tongue twisting abilities come from that. No, so it comes from me sucking my thumb when I was little. But yeah, so these things this is majorly important. This is why I chose this book. One is because I think it draws a clear distinction between like the Wazunga and everybody else, right? And she comes from an anthropological perspective, so we're dealing with culture, art. That's why I mean, this is where I could see where she talks about emotion. I think she needs to talk a little bit more, not just emotion, but really define that and tie it into spirituality, right? Like there's an intuitive nature behind that, right? Like it's a feel. We describe it as a feeling, but it's more than that. When intuitive stuff happens, it's more than that. It almost feels like a presence, right? And so like I think it's the perfect book to begin with. And you know, Linda's want to read the next one, and I found out it's only 60 pages. And maybe we could read that the next time, right? Yeah. It's only 60 pages. I was like,
yeah.
After reading this, I told her last night, after reading this, 60 pages should be nothing.
Oh yeah, it says we'll be done. That's one.
Yeah.
Let's just finish
this one.
But let's
I'm checking on the time.
Let's close out. let's close out.
We gotta figure out where we.
Oh,
going
are we
to
going to
next
read to
time?
the end of chapter 1 the next
Yeah.
yeah,
week?
the next
Yeah,
week will be the next 5
Okay.
areas or sections. You good with that, Niyami?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
The end,
Okay.
end of chapter 1. Okay.
It's good reading. That's good reading. I like the to the
And
end.
listen, people could come in, like people could come in if they're not reading or they came in late, because this discussion, it'll be good for them to listen to it as if they're gonna start reading the book. It gives them reference, and I'll be having the videos, and people could actually revisit the videos and see what is like the discussion, what was important stuff. Also, we got to be careful how we speak in these things. But me, I speak the truth, and I think if they don't like it, too bad. Prove me wrong. Or they may say, "Oh, we got power. We're not gonna allow them to post anything." I'm like, get out of here. But anyways, let's close out. Let's start with the Wheeler family, since they got a new person coming in, even though he was hijacking our meeting
Right.
from the side.
Right.
Right. Yeah, there's two of us. And, he's absorbing knowledge.
Ah,
He's listening.
This Batman and Robin, he got a sidekick.
You want to say something, Billy?
No, I enjoyed the discussion today mainly because it kind of helped me struggling with on my own for a while. Really, when we talk about advancement of our people and stuff like that, a lot of people always say we need leaders, right? And for me, I've always had an issue with that because I was always like, I don't particularly think we need leaders, because when you think of a leader, you have something at the front of a thing and you push it forward, right? So if the leader goes away, then the whole thing crumbles.
Yeah.
I was like, well, what we need is something more like a sphere, right? Where you have a bunch of different nucleuses, and you're like, if I take care of the people that I can take care of, and they take care of the people that they can take care of, it becomes a network, big sphere, which is, even if you break a small part of that sphere, it's still a sphere because it's interlocked like that. So that's
matter
why.
of fact, we even talked about that in the beginning when I always give people nicknames, and I called a friend King, and he didn't like it, and not realizing that the way we look at it, the king, the pharaoh serves his people, right? The king serves his people. The Nesubiti, which is the pharaoh, and pharaoh is a Greek word, Nesubiti, serve the people. And so whenever he doesn't serve the people correctly, he's a bad tyrant, right? And so he really like when we look at those, the leadership really is a representative of the whole, right? Because if everybody talks, nobody can really listen, right? So we'd be like, okay, we want Linda to do the libation. If we all try to do the libation all at the same time, right, and it doesn't work. And even you can see that they even separate the dude there. While she's talking, Cool Breeze here is doing the libation. And so we always do things together, and there's always we decide, okay, we're gonna have this person go meet up with the Wazunga in battle, right? Make sure let's discuss what he wants, see what he wants, right? So we always represent somebody, we always choose a person, but really, I agree with you in terms of that.
That's a good definition.
Yeah, I like how we put it there. It's working together. That's how you could get stuff done.
Yeah.
Once you kind of start to do moja first, the first principle, and then you kind of build out from there.
Yeah. The Linda's family, y'all want to close out y'all portion, and then I'll go to the next.
Oh, I'm done. I'm with him.
Yeah. It was good tonight. I mean, it's always good connecting with people. I think that's a bigger part of it. Seeing the people with the same type of interests in the same room, kind of to a
Guys,
same-
you're not crazy.
Yeah.
There's other people thinking like you.
yeah.
We're not
Yeah.
alone. Veronica.
This has been very, very motivational for me because as I'm reading through, yeah, it's challenging, but it's very exciting as well. And then when we come together and I hear people's views and people's perspective on just very same things that I've been going
And
through.
see
are
Rod's face.
Yeah. You know, yeah, this is definitely the way to read that book. I think.
All
Definitely
books.
the way. Yeah. You know.
Yeah.
So
Sunshine.
that's it.
Yeah, I agree. This is the way to read this book.
What happened to my background?
Oh, I just had to move around my room a little bit today, change it up. But I did like, because a lot of the information is, even if it's not new, it's new again, right? So I like that when you touched upon in anthropology, it's about all the things, like, you know, spirituality, the culture. It's coming together for me in that way. So I that's what I got from tonight. Came together a little bit more tonight.
You know who's next? Nyami or Miss Ubuntu. She's new.
Yeah, this thing you enjoy being.
Oh, okay.
Or you didn't.
You
didn't like Rob. Go ahead.
Is it close out?
I did enjoy it.
Yes, I know. I'm more handsome than Yami. I know that. Go ahead.
Well, we came in late, unfortunately. So, but I really enjoyed it because he was really excited about it last week, and so hearing it and then reading a little bit of the chapter before coming in. I was saying it's a lot of things that I've been studying on my own, because I've been studying about like femininity through an African perspective. And so it kind of goes along the way of how you talk about like the right brain, but it's actually the whole brain. So I'm really, really excited to know that there's other people that think outside the book.
She actually breaks up. She has stuff about those things too, where you know, because really there's that's another conversation, so let me leave it there.
But I'm excited for more to learn. So thank you.
Mr. Mbutu.
I enjoyed it. Sorry I came late. I'm used to him sending me something in Messenger and I didn't see it.
Yeah, once you send your email, bro, I'm not trying to give Facebook all that credit. I have my own social media called comediscribe.com. Y'all welcome to join and make it busy. Or also, sooner or later, I'm going to kill it because it's been coming off my pocket, you know.
Oh, yeah. But then somebody sent me last week's link.
Right.
So,
but did you check your email? Because I sent you the link twice, even like
but it was last week's.
No.
Yeah.
The one that I sent that is only the link itself. I sent you that in your email. Everybody got the same link, so you can't argue with. They got in. You know, unless you call me a liar, you calling everybody else in here a liar.
No, I'm just calling you one next. No, I enjoyed it.
We are one. So you calling yourself a liar too.
Oh, okay. So I enjoyed it. I wish I got it in earlier, but I think it is a very good book, because I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, I was so frustrated at Black people, just frustrated. But reading the book, it helps me to understand what's going on, and I can get back to my senses.
I'm still frustrated. You special. and I ain't saying that in a good way. You special. No, but listen, man, I'm trying to leave this place, bro. I had enough, man. You know, the investment that one makes and the time and the effort, you know, I want to be able to build something before I pass, bro. And so people like, you know, and like I said, wherever I'm at and I get it done, y'all all are welcome to come, you know what I'm saying? Because we're trying to get land and everything and just be done with it, man, because I'm done with this place. Miss Santana. Missy
Well,
Santana.
so I came in late. I was dealing with some issues with my classes, but I enjoyed being here tonight. I extended my video because I just lost some money dealing with my classes, so
Oh.
I wasn't an happy camper right now. Well, I wasn't an happy camper today, so I turned off my video so you guys don't see my stacked face. But I started a new session of classes tomorrow, which was put on me.
Did you get that scholarship though?
Huh?
Did you get the scholarship?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is it? The $100 you talk about?
What was that?
You lost the $100 they were gonna waive?
No.
Oh, okay.
I lost money trying to buy my book, but thank God I used my PayPal account so that I could dispute it.
Yeah. Good.
But since today is Sunday, nothing can be done till Monday, so I just have to wait.
You know, I got worried there because I know the classes are like $5,000. I'm like, you didn't lose $5,000, did you?
Nah, but it's gonna be a busy week for me this week. I start a new class tomorrow, so I'm gonna try my best to keep up with the reading with my other two classes. So I just have to balance everything together.
She got this awesome program that reads everything. I'm like, yo, that's fast. I personally I could use those programs, but I have to read. I got to look at the words there, like
We got to
that
follow
interaction.
along with the program too.
Well, listen, I appreciate everybody for coming here. Let me close out real quick. It's already like 9:34. We're actually here longer, and earlier today, Linda's is trying to cut it 1 hour. You know that ain't gonna happen.
Can I ask a quick question though? Are we confirmed that you're gonna open up at 7, but we'll start at 7:30? Is that what you're saying for next week?
Well, I think yes, because I care about Sunshine and I like having Sunshine around. She warms up the place. You know? I mean, you got to appreciate that the fact that she's like zip and sagging, and I don't want her to be rushing all the time, and you know,
right? Okay,
accident and all that. I mean, warm weather's coming.
No, so I'm just saying, if we click in at 7:30, that's okay.
I mean, what I'm gonna do is the first half an hour, if people have questions that are outside of like, or want to have some type of dialogue, they could come in. I'll open it up at 7.
Okay.
And I actually like to start at 7:15, but because she actually gets in at 7:15, I give her a little bit more time.
Right. Okay.
So 7:30. But if you guys got questions, you know, we can knock it out. Like if y'all want to talk about the Plato stuff, I mean, I haven't really read that article that I sent you guys.
Yeah.
I'm operating from like 20-year-old memories.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But I don't know that we want to discuss Plato, because I mean he's the genesis of the whole problem, it sounds like. So
yeah, we are discussing Plato. Literally. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
But I know some people didn't have the background for it. Yeah. And it just dawned on me. I'm like, dude, like I'm like enjoying my I'm like, they're like, yeah, like enjoying this. I'm like, hold on. Some people probably haven't even read the classics, right? Like what? See, and they called it the classics, and I got caught into it. You see that? They got me, yo. They got me. So these are things we got to be conscientious about, even when we're using the words, right? We got to be conscientious. You guys are muted. Cool Breeze, you muted. I don't hear you.
Oh, okay.
What was that?
No, I was agreeing that, yeah, we had to watch what the words that are coming out of our mouth, really. It's coming out so naturally that, you know, you don't even know it's coming out. So,
And really we got to describe the reality. Like we got to be real. We can't be so nonchalant about what the reality, you know, and so we can't allow ourselves to get away with that. Like you see how I check myself? Got to be doing those things, or else we start believing it, right? Greek classics. All right, guys. So, you know, we're Black people. We could extend this longer and longer, but so I want to greet everybody. I want to greet everybody with Shema Imhotep.
Imhotep.
And listen, 7 o'clock, Nijami, and check your goddamn email. Quit lying. Shema Imhotep. That means go in peace.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay.